Arts Commission meeting to order, and it is 6:01, I think. Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Reiners?
Yes, present.
Commissioner Momsen?
Here.
Commissioner Love?
Here.
Vice Chair Knudsen?
Present.
Chair Schlelein? Thank you.
Next is approval of the agenda. Are there anybody want to change anything order-wise? So could I have a motion to approve? Second, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Reiners?
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen?
Yes.
Commissioner Love?
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen?
Yes.
Chair Schlelein?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Item 1.0. At this time, it is public comment. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Under state law, the Commission cannot discuss or act upon the matters presented under this item at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to comment when the item comes up for Commission consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the chair, please step to the podium and speak into the microphone. Begin by stating and spelling your name. Is there anyone here who wants to make public comment? Thank you. We will move on to, there are no presentations, so we'll move on to the consent calendar. Item 3.1. Could we receive the minutes from the regular meeting? I think we have them, so we need a motion. Any discussion, any changes on the minutes? So we need a motion and a second.
I motion to keep minutes as previously dispersed.
That works.
I'll second that previous dispersed.
Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Reiners?
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen?
Yeah.
Commissioner Love?
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen?
Yes.
Chair Schlelein?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We move on to 4.0 of the regular calendar and 4.1. And we are now into the temporary art proposal of the Arthur Silverman sculptures. And Dave Jahns, our Parks and Rec Director, will conduct the discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. As Chair Schlelein mentioned, we have a public art proposal in front of you. This one is temporary in nature. This one is proposed by Mr. Jim Silverman, and as Connie shared, these are Arthur Silverman sculptures. So I know we've had a few of these come your way in recent months, which is very exciting to see, and we're very grateful for the community for bringing these proposals forward and wanting to enrich our community with more art and increasing our creative value in the community. So I'm going to give a little bit of background information, then we'll talk about the pieces and then next steps. This one is a little bit different than the last proposal you saw, so we'll talk about how that may change with your recommendation and direction to staff this evening. So a little bit of background information. As you recall, in December, the City Council adopted Sonoma's public art policy and procedures. This really set the framework in place for us to have a vehicle of how we receive, review, and make determinations on proposals of public art, both temporary and public in nature. Really intended to increase public art in our community, enhance the quality of life, but ultimately creating a process that hopefully is streamlined for you as commissioners, as well as artists and individuals in the community that want to propose art to be in place. October of this past year was our first proposal, and since then, I believe we've had 3 or 4 come through the commission, so it's certainly gaining momentum. Your role in this process, this is outlined in the public art policy and guidelines. I've bolded a few of them that are specific to what you're looking at this evening. But really what we're looking for the commission to do is review the artwork, provide your comments, your feedback, ultimately making a recommendation to staff and the City Council. Any public art installations we take forward to City Council for their final approval and blessing, but really look at you all as the experts in that field. So want you to weigh in on your bringing your expertise and also how you feel that these specific pieces fit into our community. So diving into this specific overview, in July of this year we received a proposal from Jim Silverman. This is a collection of Arthur Silverman sculptures, and as you'll see shortly, and it was in the packet, there's a compilation of different sculptures, different shapes, different sizes, made up of bronze, aluminum, corten, and stainless steel. These are proposed to be temporary loaned to the city. I know Mr. Silverman has expressed that would like to have them in place by the end of this calendar year. A specific timeline has not been established. I think that's open for discussion. Mr. Silverman is here and will have an opportunity to weigh in more and answer any questions you have at the end of the presentation. And also to that note, I had an opportunity to visit the property to take a look at the pieces, and we wanted to bring forward the full catalog, but specific locations and which pieces have not yet been identified. So what we're bringing forward to you this evening is really an introduction to the collection. If there's interest in the commission, staff's recommendation that we would dive into this further, potentially with the support of one or several members of the commission, we could then bring it back to you all with a fully fleshed out idea of location, specific pieces, and budget. But before I get to those steps, let's take a look at some of the artwork. So I have these split up into 2 slides. I realize there's a lot of images here. As you see, I tried to put them so that there's the same image from different angles for the most part. I will let Mr. Silver weigh in. I know it can be challenging with the images on the screen to actually get the context of size. These can be very different shapes and sizes. For example, the corten boxes that you're seeing on the left-hand side of the screen are quite large, whereas other ones are more, I would say, tabletop size. You can see that from some of the pedestals in place. But again, this would be an opportunity for our commission staff to dig into specifics if there's interest in pursuing this collection for our temporary art. Here is an additional set. So it's quite a wide array and robust collection here. So different styles, different mediums, different opportunities, and I think potentially different locations where these may be applicable. That's a tough one in our community. So getting back into the overview of the proposal, as proposed by Mr. Silverman, he's looking to provide these pieces on loan to the city. City would be ultimately responsible for transporting, installation, and maintaining during the life of the installation. The artist has requested $2,000 from public art funding, and speaking with Mr. Silverman, that is to go towards getting the pieces cleaned up and ready to go for public viewing. It's currently there in the backyard, and there's an opportunity to get them in better shape, and so that's what the bulk of that funding is intended to go towards. So looking at next steps, we'll obviously move into our discussion. Happy to answer questions that you have. As I mentioned before, if the commission's interested in pursuing one or several of the pieces within this collection, we'd have the opportunity to go back, take a look at the piece, work with Mr. Silverman on specific pieces, and really identify good locations that go hand in hand with each of those pieces. One thing that we'll do as staff is based on the total number that we're considering. We'll come back to you all with what that budget impact is. I know oftentimes, we look at the value or the cost of acquiring the piece, but there is expenses that go into whether it needs an additional base, whether it has to have engineering review, just transport in itself, depending on the nature of it, whether we have to hire crane equipment, things along those lines. So depending on the pieces, we'll come back with a more specific budget and what that impact would look like to the public art fund. And then ultimately, when the loan comes to an end, it would be the city's responsibility to transport those back to the artist. As I mentioned previously, Mr. Silverman's hopeful that we will move these off the property into place by the end of this calendar year. As I understand, he has some plans to travel and like to see it placed prior to that point. So this evening, again, a little bit different than, say, the previous proposals. This is an introduction. We're not necessarily looking for a recommendation on specific pieces tonight. We're looking more for general interest in one or several pieces of of the items and giving direction to staff. We have an item later on the agenda where we'll be contemplating creating an ad hoc committee to look at public art proposals. So that could be an opportunity for the commission to be involved between meetings. But again, looking for your general comments and feedback and direction this evening. Ultimately, you can give staff direction to pursue this, or you may ultimately decide to pass. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions, go back to the images. If okay by you, Chair Schlelein, I'd like to invite the artist and give Mr. Silverman an opportunity to expand upon anything that I may have left out or that I'm sure he can more eloquently expand upon.
Please, Jim, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. My name is Jim Silverman, Silverman. For the record, I live at 1535 East Napa Street with Vicki Whiting. Arthur Silverman was a New Orleans sculptor fascinated by the tetrahedron, which he expressed in hundreds of works of art ranging from a 60-foot tall, 20-ton fountain to tabletop pieces. I brought in an example that I'd like to pass around. He was a surgeon, and the quality of his work shows in the level of production. As Dave said, his work is in bronze, aluminum, stainless, corten, and something else that I've forgotten. I have a personal collection that I'd like to make available to the city. It includes not only one particular large-scale piece. In addition, there are multiple pedestal pieces. What doesn't show very well in the photograph is an especially gorgeous stainless steel torchlight lamp, the one on the far right. The fabrication is really quite exceptional. The work is all available to the city. I would be honored to share it. I don't know, I think the best way for you to consider the work would be to come and see it. Happy to show it to all of you. Bring your friends. It's always a pleasure for me to share the work. In addition to the sculpture in the backyard, I also have a couple pieces of furniture, as well as a large number of drawings and cardboard models, all expressing the same kind of artistic journey. If there's further interest, I can reach back to connections in New Orleans to discover additional pieces that might be available as well. So I'm open to your questions, and I thank you for your interest.
Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
This is very exciting, and I'm sure we have lots of questions.
Are we ready for questions? Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jamie.
I'm curious how you are envisioning unfolding this. Would this be something that, like the art walks that we have in Sonoma, where somebody would follow along the path of these? Would there be a story included and plaques? Are you envisioning anything like that?
I would love to follow your lead in that capacity. I often think in terms of content and form. I have content available for you to envision in a form however appropriate.
And my other question was, I read it's something that was given to us, a concern about public access to it. And some of them, especially if they were in the plaza, would be so inviting to climb on, and I worry about that.
I share your concern.
Yeah,
I share your concern, both for insurance reasons. I don't
Yeah.
want anybody to get injured,
right.
as well as concern regarding the work itself. It could be damaged that way.
Other questions, comments?
Hi, Jim.
Yes.
I think they're beautiful. Question is, are you looking to show them to create more interest for Arthur Silverman's work, or are you interested in selling them or just showing them?
All of the above. I'm really wide open to that. I'm at a point in my life where I'm sort of divesting myself of a great deal, and I have a lot of this work. I would be happy to share it with the world more widely.
Thank you for your presentation. Do some of them come with the pedestals that you have them on at your house? And then what, for the large ones, what is the anchoring, what type of anchoring is needed for those?
Excellent questions. Most of them have pedestals, also fabricated in his studio, and the pedestals are as beautifully created as the works themselves, and they're all specific to the piece. The large open boxes, he calls it the Corten piece, has holes drilled in a bottom plate for anchoring.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Could you talk about the, I don't know if you can see on the screen, the large one that's Corten steel?
Yes.
Because I saw it in real life, and it's pretty fascinating.
It's a crystalline form. My father was highly intellectual. He was a urologist who also taught himself Spanish, French, and Italian, as well as being a self-taught artist, fascinated by the tetrahedron as a form. He developed a following among the math and art community and was celebrated at SUNY conferences. There are people who speculate that he was exploring an additional dimension. One of the characteristics of his work is as you proceed around it, one side does not resemble the other side. And so it can be a bit of a mind game, if you will. If you go to YouTube and Google Arthur Silverman Painted Trio, you'll see a spectacular video, a drone video that circulates one of his pieces in New Orleans, and it's really quite fantastic. He has a large number of pieces in the public in the city of New Orleans, but because he started late as an artist, his work was not, it didn't travel very far. But I would be happy to share it with my hometown here. And I invite you all to come by and take a look.
Thank you for bringing us this proposal. I know it's temporary. Do you have a timeline? I know you want it in possibly by the end of the year. How long do you see temporary?
Thank you. As I said, Vicki and I are at an inflection point in our lives, and we plan to leave for a year, leaving in February of 2027, not returning until 2028. It would make me happy to see the work in place beyond my backyard before we leave. I see at least a one-year time period for the loan. It could be extended. The works could be sold. I don't really know. I'm wide open to all of those conversations.
Great, thank you.
Sure. The work does need some cleaning up. I would bring it to Jim Callahan, of course, who's familiar with the pieces.
Any other questions, concerns, comments?
We live just past Sonoma's Best, going down 8th Street East. Rooster mailbox, it's easy to find. And all of you are welcome to come take a look.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
So we have been discussing in the community in various talks and about the change in our public art policy being a temporary, being acceptable to temporary art. And Jim and I discussed this, and he's definitely at a place. Jim, do you want to stay till we vote, or we'd love to have you stay. And he had expressed, it was kind of like stars aligned at that point. And Dave and I went out and saw the work and toured and thought that we weren't sure about which pieces or what would work, bike paths and parks, but our minds started to explode a little bit, and I think it's an incredibly generous offer with some really interesting pieces for our community to explore and push their thinking. So obviously there's much to think about, protection of the artwork, protection of the public, how many we would want, where they would go. But for us, this is kind of a wonderful little jumpstart gift to get our temporary art thinking to begin. And we thought, as we discussed this, and I encouraged Jim to bring his proposal, go through the portal and bring that proposal to us, that this would give our commission a way to start this whole idea. So that's how it started.
Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt, but just before you get too far into deliberations, just want to remind to open up for public comment since we do have someone joining us,
Yes,
just to be sure.
thank you. And is there public comment? No? We have an audience.
One more question. I'm looking at them and I just now realized that I think the top and the bottom are the same. Is that right?
I'll let Jim correct me, but I tried to do that for the most part. I think on the far right, for example, I think those are two separate pieces. But for example, the first one's on the left. That box is the same image from different perspectives, as is the second one.
In all cases, that's true. The top and the bottom are the same. There are 4 pieces represented there.
So with that, I think that what we do next is important. Obviously, we could create a special committee. We could go as a group. We could put this with the ad hoc that we're probably going to be creating for temporary art at the end. And we have probably have a lot more questions than we have answers tonight. So this is kind of dipping our toe into this. So any suggestions on how any of you would like to proceed?
I think seeing them in person would be great, whether it will be the ad hoc committee doing that, and then bringing forward the recommendation from the ad hoc committee after seeing it. I also think a location should be known, obviously, of what piece would go where. I think they're beautiful. It reminded me, my dad was a math teacher, and he had these wood sculptures around the house all the time, little puzzles. So it reminded me of what he had. I liked that. And I love the intersection of math and art because it is really relevant in that. So yeah, I would love to form a committee, I think, to see these and then bring back that recommendation.
I would agree with that. I was thinking possible locations, like how about at the schools? Like this is a great jumping off point for math and for art.
Great idea.
Yeah. Maybe some pieces at the new charter school that has an arts component to their curriculum.
I think that's a great idea too. I was just wondering if there was programming or something that could happen to, bring arts and math together. I think that would be amazing as a community to do that. But I think we need more. I need to see weights and like logistic stuff.
So perhaps we could it sounds like everybody wants to see them,
Yeah.
to me. We don't have to have everybody on the committee, but it would be fun to visit. And then perhaps we could create an ad hoc tonight for, what do you suggest, Dave?
And Chair, I know it gets a little tricky, right, with our order of operations tonight, because we'll be discussing potentially forming a art proposal ad hoc committee. So I think for the sake of this item, at least what I'm hearing, the commission is interested in viewing the pieces, and you certainly can do that individually before your next meeting, and we can help arrange that. I think what I'm hearing is there's interest in exploring these in more detail, getting more information, and then ultimately we'll bring that back to the commission. So I think until we form that ad hoc, which is later on the agenda, what we need is just enough direction to staff to work with the commission accordingly to bring back enough information for you to make a determination at your next meeting. And then when we get to that item later tonight, we can make a determination if we'll have an ad hoc that specifically can dig into those details, or if that will just be staff working on that. But you're certainly welcome to individually go look at those pieces.
So you need a motion for staff to explore further?
Yeah, I think we have enough direction, but I think go ahead and make a motion. The item was looking to identify specific installation locations, so we'll look for a motion on that, just to direct staff to do so and work with the commission accordingly, and then we'll figure out what that shape looks like later on in the meeting.
Okay, could I get a motion then for that?
Make a motion for staff to proceed with identifying specific pieces and accompanying locations.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Reiners,
Agreed.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Love,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein. Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and I'll follow up shortly with next steps. We just really want to say thank you for this gracious.
I'm delighted. We're leaving for a month at the end of September, so the sooner we can do this, the better.
Great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Next, we have item 4.2, and that is the In-Lieu fee ordinance, and Dave Jahns will take it from here.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I know you've all had an opportunity to look at this item at least over the last week. Some have been attuned a little bit longer on this front. So I think, an important discussion for us here this evening. This is a new opportunity that's being presented that the city of Sonoma has not had in place before as an opportunity to support the arts. So what the intent of tonight's conversation is, I'm going to go through the conversations that have happened so far, both at City Council as well as other commissions. I'll go over some background on percent for art and what is being proposed. Ultimately tonight, we're looking for you all to provide your recommendation, your guidance, your expertise as advisory in nature to City Council. Council will ultimately be setting what that percent looks like. And so we're going to take the information that we hear from you this evening, coupled with that with other information that's been provided by other commissions, and then that information will go back to City Council. But I'll go over those next steps as we get to there. So starting off with a little background information, the city completed a comprehensive fee study in June of this past year, but I'll be shared. This has gone on. There's been a process that's gone over at least a year. It predates my time here, but I understand a year and a half, 2 years have gone into updating the city's fee study, and that hadn't been done in some time. And that wasn't just specific to in-lieu fees or arts fees. That was specific to all the fees that we charge as part of operating city. Everything from building permits to special event applications to a film permit, to reserving a parking space and everything in between. As part of that fee study process, in-lieu fees were discussed. And so we worked with a consultant called Matrix, and part of that, they did their initial benchmarking and recommendations on what those in-lieu fees looked like. They were specific to parking, public art, and trees. For the sake of tonight's discussion, we're going to be focusing on the public art element. As part of that fee study, what came out of that was a recommendation for a proposed in-lieu fee for public art for 1% of development projects valued over $250,000. I'll go through this in a little bit more detail, but just wanted to put that out there as an initial summary. We have an ordinance in place right now, so Chapter 19.51 of our municipal code, that there is an in-lieu arts fee that's to be allocated as part of public projects. Now, when I use the term public projects, what I'm talking about is city-led initiatives. So, for example, the city built a bridge several years ago. So when we have city infrastructure projects right now, there is an in-lieu arts fee that should be calculated as part of those projects. What the updated ordinance and updated fee study contemplates is including potentially commercial projects, so private construction, private development, and multifamily home projects. We use the term multifamily. You may hear us say residential. We include multifamily because this is what it's being recommended is that it's not currently applicable to a single family home. It's multifamily homes, and I'll get into a little more detail, but really talking about 5 units or more is what's being currently contemplated. So following council's adoption of the fee schedule, which they did in June of 26, again, that comprehensive fee schedule, what was then required is to go back and update the ordinance and update, which is, be step 2 of this, which I'll talk about, is update the public art policy. That would allow the city to collect the fees by way of the municipal code, and then the policy would set how we govern and place assessments on art and how those funds are ultimately utilized. So let me take a step back. I'll go through it here, but just kind of talk about what an in-lieu fee is. So the intent of an in-lieu fee, and so is that when there is a development, the initial intent is that part of that project, public art is placed in that location as part of that specific development. Cities and councils recognize that's not always feasible, so it provides developers the opportunities, instead of placing art specifically at that site, to pay a fee into a specific fund that could be utilized for public art. So for example, if you're building, let's say that we'll utilize the bridge as an example. It wasn't necessarily the right location to place public art. So in turn, you can place what the value of that art is into a public art fund, which then could be utilized for public art anywhere within the city. Again, you all as a commission have a really guiding role in determining how that art is placed. So it's very common practice that happens. There's in-lieu fees of different natures. Again, we've talked about trees and parking. This one's specific to public art. This is happening in numerous cities throughout the state, throughout the country. So back to our specific municipal code section, as I mentioned before, Section 19.51 of the municipal code requires that all public projects that are of evaluation, so the total cost of the project is over $250,000, would dedicate 1% to art. The new in-lieu fee proposes that for public projects, so that would continue, commercial and or multifamily residential units. Again, the distinction right now was initially at 5 or more units over $250,000. That value could be placed on site or go into this public art fund. A developer has the option to do that in partial as well. Let's say, for example, they had a requirement to place $1,000 worth of artwork as part of their development. They can place $500 of art on site and pay $500 into the in-lieu fee. As part of the recommended exemptions, it's very common for affordable housing projects to be exempt from this. So as part of staff and the consultant's initial recommendation was that 100% affordable housing projects would be exempt from this. Development that's undertaken by nonprofit organizations, repair or construction that happens from a natural disaster, work that's needed for historic preservation, seismic retrofits and flood protection work, and the addition of fire sprinkler and solar system installations. So part of this proposed modification was to move some elements out of the Municipal Code Chapter 19 and create a new chapter that was specific to the Public Art Fund. What that does is creates a location within the Municipal Code that specifies a Public Art Fund, and what that does is creates kind of the governance behind that, how we isolate and identifies funding that can go towards the overall public art program. Again, that's monies that can go towards providing public art throughout the community, not just in that specific location. Also calls out that there's a requirement for an annual city allocation. And so as it currently states, it's 1/4 of 1% of the city's general fund. So our overall budget for the year, 1/4 of 1% of that should be allocated on an annual basis to that public art fund, which would allow it to grow and allow you as a commission to, again, work with the community on enhancing public art within our community. The council does have the ability to waive or reduce that by way of a resolution. And ultimately moving this chapter out of the public art development chapter into its own fund moves I would say the granular details of the policy of how we determine the value of art, how we determine what art is appropriate, where it's placed, would actually live within the policy which you all created and was adopted by City Council. And so the actual individual rules and regulations live within the policy rather than in the municipal code. That allows you all to be more nimble over time. You can make updates to that policy a little more regularly and in a more simple fashion than living within the municipal code. So as part of the ordinance update, the Planning Commission, part of their charter is when there are ordinance updates that are applicable to development, it's their role to make formal recommendations to City Council. So after the fee was adopted by City Council in June, the Planning Commission reviewed the language which we just shared and was in your packet for the updated ordinance. And as part of their review, there was concerns on the Planning Commission that some of the proposed language and values would be could be seen as prohibitive potentially to housing developers. And so they put forth recommendations to staff, which ultimately went to City Council. And as you see here in the struck out version, their recommendation is to remove the residential component. So essentially make all residential exempt from paying to this in-lieu fee, and recommended increasing the valuation of projects from $250,000 as a threshold to $1 million. That is for commercial development, private development, city projects or public projects. That threshold would remain at $250,000. And so you can see this is more language fixing, but their proposed exemptions included the ones that I just shared before, but taking the affordable units, because essentially what their recommendation was is that residential wouldn't be contemplated, so no need for that to be listed as an exemption. They did provide kind of a second layer to this as part of the recommendation that if City Council ultimately determined to include residential development as part of the in-lieu fee ordinance, their recommendation was to increase the number of units threshold from 5 to 20, and to exempt all affordable housing square footage from the project valuation. I want to run through a couple examples just to show you kind of what this actually would look like and provide as far as a return into that public art fund. Again, this is in the option. We'll see the value here that could be placed on site or that would go into the fund. And these three examples are three real life examples that have happened within the last several years here in our community. So we wanted to utilize things that happened before we had this in place and what that impact might have been. So the first one is looking at a 5-unit multifamily addition. So the building valuation was $1.1 million, and that provides return of $11,200 that would go either towards value of art placed on site or into that public art fund. Remodels and renovations are part of this. So for example, a downtown restaurant that had a $400,000 remodel would pay $4,000 into that art fund. And then finally looking at scenario C, this is a 120-unit multifamily project, but with 6 affordable units. So we're showing what it would look like if you were to exclude the affordable housing from that process. So an $18 million project, reduce that $844,000 value of those affordable units, gets you to a 17 million accessible square footage project. And again, $171,000 would then go towards art on site or towards that public art fund. Part of this process, as I know members of the commission have looked into this, staff looked into this, and we want to, as I mentioned before, we're certainly not the only city that either has this or is contemplating that. In fact, there's other cities in the area that are currently going through the same process. These are 8 examples. These could, certainly there's 8 different ones that could be utilized. We tried to pick ones that were in the vicinity, as well as others that have had more established art programs. No mystery that we picked. So picked 4 that include residential and 4 that exempt residential, just so we can have a little bit of a comparison. Again, each community has a very different situation. Some of these obviously have a lot more development that have happened or have those in the hopper. Some have less, some have different percentages, but want to show that there is different ways that this is being contemplated by different cities based on their specific circumstances. So where does that leave us this evening? So council reviewed the proposed ordinance as well as the Planning Commission's recommendations at their August 5th meeting. During that conversation, the City Council requested that the Cultural and Fine Arts Commission have an opportunity to look at what's being proposed, and both that from the original proposal as well as what was recommended by the Planning Commission. Provide your review, your expertise, your feedback to them. So we'd like to have a discussion this evening about that. Ultimately, your comments will be provided to the City Council, and Council will be making a determination. We've set a date certain to return, so September 16th, so not the next meeting, but the meeting after, just to give enough time to compile that information. It will be presented to City Council, and ultimately they'll be giving their direction to staff and moving forward. Once the ordinance is approved, in whatever shape or form that takes, I anticipate working with you all to come back and update our public art policy. We want to make sure that we have the ordinance set, what that percent looks like, what the different thresholds look like before we dive into that art policy, because obviously that will have a big impact on how it's governed. But really this will be the tool that we utilize on art selection, art valuation, art placement, how that public art fund is utilized. A lot of the work has already been done. And again, our next item tonight, after this one, we'll be contemplating having, potentially forming an ad hoc to help work on that between meetings. But once the ordinance is approved, next step will be update the policy, which will really give the details on how the public art fund is utilized and assessed. So again, looking tonight, we really want to focus our discussion on, utilizing your expertise of how this impacts the potential for art enhancement within our community. We'll take that recommendation, provide it to council. I think I'll leave it at that. I know there's a lot of information here, and this is a high-level summary. There's a lot of details that can be had there. I'm happy to go back through slides, pull them back up, answer additional information you have. If there's things specific to development, may have to get some information from our building and planning director, but happy to field any questions you may have. I know there's members of the commission who have quite a bit of experience in this area as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you to answer any questions or review any of the information that you'd like to see again.
Thank you, Dave. I'd like to thank Dave for all of the work. He's been at it for 2+ weeks, and you can see the level and the level of detail and thought that has gone into this. It's not for the faint of heart, and we're very, very fortunate to have him at this moment when we've got a decision to make. So I'm sure you all have questions and comments. I've got mine, but I'll hold them till the end.
I have a question. I'm not quite sure how to form it, but so a building is either going to create an artwork or contribute money, correct? Do I have that right?
That's correct. And one thing, I think it may have been in the slide, but I glossed over it, but it's a great question. So let's say a hotel's built. They either have the opportunity to put art so that I want to make a distinction, it's publicly visible, doesn't necessarily have to be publicly accessible, so you have to be able to see it from the right of way. So it could be a mural, it could be a sculpture, it could be some other aspect that's publicly visible. So they have that option of whatever that art value is, or they can pay into a general public art fund, which then can be utilized for us as a commission and a community to commission art, place art, enhance art throughout our community.
I would like to set a boundary of our discussion, not to go too deep into the holes of how that piece gets selected, how those sorts of things. Tonight, we're really trying to determine the changes that were suggested by the Planning Commission, and those are what percent. We're still thinking 1%. 2, what type of buildings are affected? Those are concerns, and renovation, which also factors in. And 3, what is the threshold amount that starts the whole process of a building? So there are so much complexity, and we'll deal with more of those kinds of details in an ad hoc later. So we're talking about the percent, what types of buildings, and also the threshold amount. Any others, Dave, that I missed?
No, I think that captured, I think those are the three key areas. Certainly if there's anything else that jumps off at you from the ordinance that you want to discuss, those are certainly open for consideration as well.
I've been looking at this, and I have a little bit of background in a former, where I lived in Ketchum, Idaho, and we went through this process. One of the things that I love about Sonoma is that, you know, people are drawn to downtown. They want to continue to explore and experience, and as in the study that we did in Ketchum, Idaho, there is a economic factor that happens when people come for the arts, and it proceeds to extrapolate in a formula which I couldn't find, but basically it really gives back to the community. And we have a sense that, you know, public art creates identity, community, walkability, reasons to linger and to return, which then brings dollars back to Sonoma. That said, I do understand the need for affordable housing. I'm a big proponent of that. I think that the multiple unit makes sense. Let's see, my specifics are excluding the residential would be really challenging for us because we don't have that much development in hotels and other commercial properties. So in order to have the vibrant community that we all love and want to proceed with, I think that multiple units make sense. The number can be completely, you know, discussed further, but it's 1 penny per dollar for the reinvestment of the environment that makes properties valuable. So that's my feeling.
I'll second what Robin said regarding how it impacts the arts economy and the economy of Sonoma in general. I think having worked for Napa, now for Santa Rosa, managing their program there, it's how we run our program, and it's how we reinvest into the different areas. It's how we purchase art, it's how we do our marketing, etc. And that really creates a really good arts economy and economy to thrive in that. So I can also understand the concerns for someone coming at this that just sees it as another fee of almost no, how is this going to reinvest into our downtown, and how is this going to get back to that commercial development that's paying it? One, they could place art and it could go on a public art map from the city, right? Or investing it, and we give back to the community by placing art. So I think what you're asking is very reasonable. I don't think it's asking too much of developers. And I agree with the residential that, you know, we don't have a huge amount of projects here. I think if there is any wiggle room or back and forth, yeah, I would ensure that the 250 is kept at that. I think that I wouldn't really want to see that go higher. You know, repairs, remodels, etc., and having those in that. I agree with the affordable housing. I think maybe having that as an exemption, but keeping the mixed or the residential, if possible, with 5 units. I'd be curious to pull up the other cities that have that. We don't have that in Santa Rosa, but it does look like a lot of cities are going that route these days.
I agree that keeping the residential is important. It's like most of the development I see in Sonoma is residential development. And then I'm also curious about the $1 million. None of the other cities are even close to $1 million. How did that number land instead of the 250? And like, how common is it for those kinds of projects to reach $1 million? Like in the examples, the restaurant remodel is $400,000. Would they not then have to pay art or a fee? It seems like we're missing out a lot on raising it to $1 million. It's basically exempting a lot of projects from contributing to the arts whatsoever. Especially when the highest one on cities close to us is 500,000. None are even approaching $1 million. So I'm curious how that was chosen, and I think it's a mistake to raise it that much.
Jamie?
I would agree with what you just said.
I think sometimes it's interesting to approach this defensively. And as Robin said, the arts add value, huge value. And when you look at Americans for the Arts, I mean, the studies, the data we have shows that it attracts people to want to move to a town, to want to develop. And so we've spent 2 years looking at benchmarking and comparables. And I'm reluctant to change very much because we've done our research. You are all experts. Our ad hoc was terrific. And I don't see the data on the other side. So I'm very concerned. I'd love to see how it affects cities negatively. And our city is very tiny. We're not even 3 miles by 3 miles when you start to think about it. When you look at Napa, and yes, they have excluded residential, but they have a downtown development association that supports Lighted Arts Festival, Art Walk, all of their public sculptures. We don't. So we have not moved in this city for 20 years of this past ordinance. I see what we have done as a course correction that is making up for a lot of time that we've lost. And the nice part about this in-lieu fee is that it could be changed. So if we see that it has a negative effect, we could go back and revise it. But I think that we as a commission are very lean. We have functioned for a very long time without money. Our community has expressed the desire for public art. It is one of the city's goals, one of the 5 goals for this year. And I'm encouraged that you all are interested too. So, other comments?
You bring up a good point. I've never come across a developer that's not going to develop because of the 1% of both of the other city jobs. And all developers I've worked with, majority have been very receptive to it. They've actually been pretty excited about the opportunity to do a mural on their building, to work with our team and go out there and view the site, put them in touch with some artists, etc. Or they pay the fee. So I haven't come across someone that hasn't developed or has been very angry over the 1%, put it that way. I'm sure it's out there, but in my career I have yet.
I'd like to do a point of order because I know that our audience member has to leave and she wanted to speak. So if we could interrupt our discussion, I would like to give her the opportunity.
Absolutely. Now's a very perfect time.
Great, thank you. I'm Deb Emerson, E-M-E-R-S-O-N, a Sonoma City resident for the last 11 years and a former commissioner that had the pleasure of serving with you all. When I read about this in the city council meeting that they were discussing this, my first thought was, wow, no good deed goes unpunished. I remember when the ad hoc committee was created to establish the very good program that Meredith, you and your committee worked on so that the city of Sonoma would have a strong art program. And I commend you for that work and the research and the time that you all put into that in creating that. So it was quite disappointing that another commission could basically derail that, and that's really what I think these changes have been. So I do plan to come to the city commission and speak. The $1 million threshold is, in my opinion, is so ludicrous and really an attempt to kill public art, and that's unfortunate. The city of Sonoma can do better than that. And as far as the multifamily, residential, I like the idea and support of your backing out of the affordable units, which are of course required for any multi-family purpose dwelling now, but you just back out of that amount. And let's not forget that often those are people that really need the art more than anyone. Like, they don't have access to it. Art is being pulled from our schools. Like, let's give a community that needs the art the opportunity to have that. And they won't have it, quite frankly, if it's exempt. We know that. So keep up the good work. I support you in your fight, and thank you for all that you're doing.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Deb. Further discussion, how do you want to proceed? You want to stay the course? If we want to stay the course of what we've created, we'll need a motion on that.
Please.
Because I'm still new to this. Can you walk me through the 1 million threshold, what that really means? And if we changed it, what that would mean?
Yeah, so the original proposal that came from the fee study was the 1%, the 250,000. The new recommendation of $1 million. So I brought up the examples. So, for example, just as Commissioner Momsen mentioned, scenario A.
Wouldn't all these scenarios not be possible because they're not doing residential anymore?
I'm going to use, yes, and I'll use the numbers. So assuming we're going to calculate numbers, or let's say A is we'll say that's a commercial development, not a multifamily home, but that one that's over $1 million, there would be a public art valuation. The restaurant remodel, for example, they would not be subject to paying 8% for art because it's below that threshold of $1 million. So if it was at $250,000, for example, or $300,000, this restaurant remodel would pay into it because it's above that threshold. And I think the intent, some of the discussion, I will not speak on behalf of the planning commissioners. The reason they were looking to raise that was their same concern about that it may impact developers. There was concern about the impact that would have to a business owner who was making a remodel.
Thank you.
So again, the changes suggested by the Planning Commission were the threshold amount to $1 million, taking out the renovations, and taking out the residential completely. And with a caveat that if the city council had decided next to keep in the residential, it would be 20 units, not 5. Obviously, they're looking at the whole issue with completely different lenses than we are. Our expertise is in this area, and we really feel like we should stay in our lane. We don't know the effects of developers. It isn't in our research. We didn't do this research. And in listening to the video of the meeting, we didn't hear any data. And I don't know if any of you have listened to it. I would love to know more, but we don't have more, and it wasn't presented in evidence. So we're functioning with what we know and what we believe is important as we make a decision, or I guess we could table it and get more information. 2.5 years is a long time to wait on all this, and we've worked hard to get here. We also have some potential developments in the city happening. Maybe not multifamily, but things are bubbling up. So we could lose out on something if we wait much longer. But, you know, we wanted to do this right and then correct the course that we were on. Jamie?
So what I'm hearing is that your concern is if we go back to them and say we'd like to lower the threshold, that it would be kind of like starting all over again? That we'd lose ground?
We'd lose time. I don't know what we'd lose.
Thank you.
Dave,
And
thoughts?
yeah, just a point of clarity. So since at the last city council meeting, we essentially, staff gave council, and council picked a date certain. So we will go back to them on September 16th. So if you are contemplating, requesting to have additional information, I think still be in our best interest to walk away with what you're recommendation and feedback is this evening, because that will be rolled into that September 16th discussion. So the next stop of information is to go back to City Council. It won't go back to Planning Commission at this point. So we've got, Planning Commission has provided their feedback. You all will provide your feedback tonight. We'll provide both those to City Council on the 16th. Hope that clarifies.
Thank you. I think we all want the best for the city in a multitude of ways. We want people to develop. We want new people coming in, young people. We want a lot of things. So, and I think we are able to look at, we don't have the data, but we do care about our community in a variety of different ways. And that's what we need to do, is what's best for our city.
I think one of the things that's challenging is that we don't have the data, but we don't have the data because we haven't had this program. So when you're talking about developers and feeling like they're going to be not going forward based on this project, we don't have that data. We only know what has happened in other communities. And the community that I was involved with was very pro-arts, and the mayor was so pro-arts based on, I think it was like a $5 or $6 additional what the arts brought to the community based on the way the formula worked, but I don't have the exact formula. But those are things that I think we need to go forward with. If we're being questioned, we need to say, hey, this is real.
I think it could be good to talk to other cities and maybe get some quotes or firsthand experiences from them. Potentially talk to some developers that have had to place art on site or pay the fees. Talk to tenants, because if we're doing, are we doing tenant improvements as well? It would be under the remodel, so it would be a tenant improvement commercial. So sometimes it's a tenant actually that's in charge of placing the art on site. So maybe if we could gather some information, I'm happy to help where I can on that from experiences. And then I'd also be curious to say, okay, well, if it's $1 million, if we go back a couple years, how many projects would that have been, and what would that impact be versus the 250, and sort of just seeing a scale of where we're at, I think would be good to put together. Even if it's just 1 year or two, I think would be good. But I mean, my feeling is stay the course. Like, I think what we have is really great. I think what we have is very fair, and I would really love to see that happen.
I have spoken with a couple developers and several architects who are very much in favor of public art. Of course, you can cherry pick either way. And and I've also reached out to my former city and that I relocated here from, and asked that question. It appears from doing a lot of internet searching, which I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, that there's not a lot of information on that. There may be some anecdotal comments. It may be that we would reach out, but I think we prepare to go to the City Council September 16th with our recommendation, and be prepared to explain to them why. It feels like we're ready.
So I think helpful for staff would just be if you could clarify those pieces. I've heard lots of discussion. I think I'm following along, but I think hearing again where you stand on the percent, what types of building, and I've heard two things on affordable housing, so I think that's the point probably we need most clarification on. Of, the original proposal was to exclude 100% affordable housing projects. There's also the discussion about excluding affordable housing square footage from the valuation. So would like to know kind of your stance on that, and then the overall valuation threshold.
Go ahead.
I love the idea of having art at the affordable housing. I think that's almost necessary. We want to include everyone, and we want everyone to enjoy it. I guess my concern a bit is that we also want affordable housing, and sometimes those are just to exempt them from paying that fee. A lot of times places already put murals on their buildings, et cetera. I don't know if it's something we could partner with affordable housing use it. So honestly, I could go either way on it. It's a tough one. I would love to see art there, right? But I also think it's a very valid exception.
However, if we have a public art fund, we could choose to put art on affordable housing. So, I mean, just because it doesn't, that particular lot doesn't create the money, why not? So, and it was brought up at a city council meeting by Patricia Farrar that she desires that and thinks that. I mean, after all, and I'm sorry to birdwalk here, and I've got a lot of thoughts, but really public art is about democratizing art. It is not behind closed doors. It's not you have to pay to get to see beautiful art. It's about bringing art to the people. That's what we're about. That's our philosophy. And I think that that's what's so beautiful about what we're trying to do here. And trying to do it in very creative ways, just like our last proposal with Jim Silverman. We're trying to bring beauty to everyone. And so, consequently, I think Dave's questions are spot on, that number one, we need to be clear about the threshold amount. It sounds like 250,000 is where we're talking about our motion being. The second, the what? Residential, but in particular, not single-family homes, but multi-family homes. And then that leads to the question, how many? We had originally said 5. It looks like our benchmarking over a period of time when our ad hoc had done that, we'd seen 5 as kind of the standard for those communities that are doing residential, but it's been suggested 20 by the other side. So I'd like you all to weigh in on that number, and let's get that cleared up.
Is there any data that we have from Sonoma of the multiple housing that there are 5 units, 20 units, 25 units? Does that exist?
Are you talking about previous development? I'm sure we do have. I don't have that information in front of me, what that looks like. I know we had a housing development that was done not that long ago over off 5th Street West in MacArthur area, but I don't know the total number of units there. And I believe the 5+ came from work that was done at this commission, and also as the consultant who put forward the In-Lieu fee memo, as you mentioned, that's been a benchmark number. So I think that's where that initially came from. Again, there's no set number that we have to stick to here in Sonoma, so that number can be. And again, kind of to your point, Chair Schlelein, I would like to get the feedback on that. But if there's not a concrete sound, I think you can say kind of where you generally sense on those units. I know we're focusing on the impact and the potential for art, so I'd like to hear your input on that. But if there's if you're struggling to come up with a specific number, I think that's okay.
For me, when we first wrote the ordinance, and we were looking at a lot of different communities, and we went all over in our internet searches, 5 units was the standard for the communities that created the multifamily as one of their focuses. And as you look at this chart of example cities, that's what they are all doing. One of the main ones we looked at was Livermore, actually, and we'd found their public art program particularly robust and long-term. And so, and also Berkeley's data and the way they've been dealing with public art over the years is just extraordinary. And it's quite an amazing model, and we have an expert in town about that will probably be weighing in at our city council meeting. So for me, 5 units seems like the standard that we're seeing. but I can give on that.
I think we can stick with the benchmark and the data that we currently have, especially because we're just making our recommendation. It's not like we're actually the ones going to decide. So they can see we recommend 5, Planning Commission recommends 20, and they can do with that what they will.
So it sounds like we've got that figured out. And then the next one is the threshold. And the threshold amount of 250,000 is, it feels like everyone is going to lean that way too. Okay. All right. So then we're starting to have our motion where we can figure it out. Other things we need?
No, I think this is, and maybe I missed it, just if we have consensus on that affordable housing component, whether as the original ordinance exempted 100% affordable projects. I think I've heard an argument for both sides of in keeping with that, and or potentially including all affordable housing units. I think there's some consensus on that, and maybe you already stated and I just missed it. So if you can clarify that piece, and that can be part of your motion certainly, but I just want to make sure there's consensus on that front.
I have a question regarding that. Is our intention to exclude public housing because we're afraid that it will deter people from building it, because there would be this?
From what I understand, and I've listened now to a number of planning commission meetings, so I'm learning more. And I've also spoken with city council members. It's hard for developers to maintain profit in affordable housing, and it's hard to get developers to want to build affordable housing. So that's of particular concern.
Makes sense.
I would be fine to exempt if just as a commission, though we think about those fees and where we're placing the public art proposals and making sure it's dispersed.
After doing a lot of searching, and I have pages and pages of these benchmarks, I'm comfortable with 100% being exempted. I think it's fair, and I think we should.
I'm comfortable with 100% too. I also think that as a commission, that it would be something that we should be able to come up with an opportunity to partner with or do something with someone to create that for those affordable units. I think it's super important.
So we're looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to bring our recommendation to the city council.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Reiners,
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Love,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you all for a great discussion. This wasn't easy and took more of your time.
Yeah, thank you all for the discussion tonight and your work on this. We will take the information forward and keep you updated. Again, that meeting is on September 16th. And then ultimately, pending City Council's direction that evening, we'll then start to work on our public art policy, updating the public art policy. I know a lot of heavy lifting has already been done on that front, but I think that's a nice segue into our next item.
Item 4.3, and it's public art proposals and policy ad hoc committees. So we're talking about two different committees here. The ordinance, the public art proposal, and the public art ad hoc are different committees, and our illustrious Parks and Director will help us with this.
Thank you, and I'll move through the background information. I put it up there, but I think we've seen it several times this year. So as you recall, we've set forward a work plan and set up accompanying ad hoc committees this year. And again, this stems from City Council goals, and as we talked about during the last item, arts is a key focal point of the Council's goals this year. Very quickly, happy to come back to this. We want to look at these are the goals that were established by City Council for the entire Parks, Arts, Recreation, and Community Services Department. And in March of this current year, you all set your goals and your company committee assignments. So part of what we're doing this evening is an opportunity to review those. You know, we're partially through the year, and I know certainly we set ourselves lofty goals and want to make sure that these all still make sense. And so we'll come back to these, we'll take a look at them, but these are the current assignments. I did remove Commissioner Small from the listings on here as he stepped down at our last meeting. So we're still looking to fill that vacancy. So we will have hopefully a new commissioner at our next meeting who can certainly step in where it feels appropriate. So these are our current listings. And then also what we're contemplating this evening is the addition of 2 additional ad hoc committees. These are a little more specific in nature. And I think, you know, tonight's temporary public art proposal and a few of the other ones received are a perfect example of why staff is recommending this. Is I think it would give the commission an opportunity to have 2 or 3 of you assigned to work alongside staff when proposals come in, can allow us to do some initial vetting. We can get information utilizing your expertise to look at the pieces, look at the proposal, ask questions with the consultant, really allow us to bring forward a fully vetted proposal by the time it gets to the full commission. As it currently stands, I know sometimes, you know, individual commissioners are approached, but typically it's coming to staff. We're gathering information, we bring it to you all, and as you've seen here a few times, we then take it back to get more information. So this may, I think, additionally streamline the process and really get some of those upfront questions answered right out of the gate. The second committee that we're considering tonight is to work on the public art policy. So again, I mentioned once the ordinance is passed by City Council on the in-lieu fee, we want to update our policy and guidelines. So the timeline on both of those, the Public Art Proposal Review Ad Hoc Committee, it's being proposed that would stay in effect until we review and adopt next year's work plan. At that point, we can evaluate whether that's worth continuing or disbanding. And the Public Art Policy update would be in place until the policy is adopted by City Council. So with that, I'm happy to go back and take a look at our current assignments or discuss the merits of adding to, and I'll turn it back to you all.
So I think it's just, do you need some clarification on these 2 ad hocs? Is there, okay. So public, I'm not sure what we're calling it, Public Art Proposal Ad Hoc. We
Yes.
are going to be having quite a few more of proposals like we had tonight. And there's many things Meredith knows because she's Public Art Director and gets these through the portal, that there's many questions that need to be asked. And so kind of vetting them is part of the process, and helping to get them to us eventually, so that we can review them. So we need 2 or 3 people on that. And is anyone interested?
I'm very interested.
I'd sign up for that one.
Yeah.
I'm always interested, but I'm you know, I'm already working behind the scenes. You guys know that, so whatever. I'm happy to join. But if someone else,
I would do it too. You know, I do it for work, so I've seen a lot of these. I do need to knock my name off of some of these lists, probably. Though I saw it come up, I thought, oh, I've been horrible because I haven't done these ad hocs either. So, but you know, that's something I could actually probably do at night. They're sent to. It's like just sit and review on our own time, which actually would work well for me.
so it sounds like we need a motion for the 3 of them. So, Morgan, do you want to move that?
I'll make a motion for Love, Reiners, and Knudsen to be on the Public Art Proposal Review Ad Hoc.
I'll second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Reiners,
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Love,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Then for the next one, we have public art policy update. And what that is, to explain a little further, is, for instance, Jamie, you were starting to delve into how art is placed, or all of the ins and outs of the different ways that this ordinance will be used, and how developers might get art, and how you vet art. So that's what this is digging in deep, really looking at benchmarks, comparables, and trying to create a solid policy. So is anyone interested in that one? I'm very interested.
I was gonna say, I can do it, but again, I think I need to take my name off of some of these other ones, so maybe
Sure.
if someone would rather do something else, I'd be more than happy to take on the policy update stuff.
I would switch, like, take over one of your other ones, just because I feel like you should be on the policy. How about develop process to support city's communication strategies and highlight arts and culture initiatives? I'll replace you on that, and then you can have the other two. Okay.
Okay, so then we have a motion. We need a motion for Meredith and I to be on this.
I make a motion for Meredith and Connie to be on that committee.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Reiners,
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Love,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
thank you.
And then, do we need another motion to change me to the develop process, the communication one?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
great.
And I just might recommend, just if there's any others, and there's swapping, that we might do that in one motion. Again, we don't have to, and I will share, we certainly have the opportunity, if we're interested, as soon as our new commissioner joins, we can certainly revisit when that person joins us as well. So again, you're welcome to make changes this evening.
I think we have a redundancy in number 2. Explore opportunities and refine strategy to implement temporary or permanent public art projects. And perhaps we want to just eliminate that particular committee at this time.
Because that would be the job of the new public art proposal review.
That's right.
Beautiful.
What do you think?
And I'm comfortable with that, as long as, because I think part of I'm comfortable with whichever direction you want to go, but I think part of this, and as long as the new committee wants to have that charter as well, is in addition to reviewing proposals that come forward, I think there was an element of strategy there, as well as how we either go after or make ourselves more attractive for proposals to come forward, or if there's a specific direction. Again, this may be one of those that is a kind of phase 2, but I think that was the original intent of that. So as long as the new commission is comfortable with that as their charter, I think completely fine to.
We could
combine and
change
expand.
the name of the new public art proposal to include explore opportunities and refine strategy for public art proposals.
Do you three agree?
Trying to do some wordsmithing in my head here.
I think that's fine. I think as we review the proposals, we'll actually have more insight in how to refine the strategy, so it makes sense. So maybe we can do that for now, and then if we see the need to recreate the ad hoc for more strategy, marketing, and how to implement, we could go ahead and do that. I think we'd have some more insight as we're going through the process together.
Yeah, and I think certainly fine too. We can call the first one public art strategy proposal review. Something. I think we get the gist of what that ad hoc is chartered with.
I'd also like to, could we go back to the other slide? I'd also like to add myself to the Creative Business Enterprises ad hoc. I've been doing quite a bit of work, and I'd like to be able to talk to that ad hoc about it. So that's one I'd like to add to. Anybody else want on or off of anything? It's a great
No, but
opportunity.
I'm sorry, I have a general question about being on these committees. I do recall that I joined the Continue Annual Programs one. And how do we gather? Is there somebody that will be calling me and saying, we need to set up a meeting for this, or how does that work?
It's a really good idea, a good question. And we probably should put a lead person on each of these ad hocs, because we've had trouble getting going and everybody's trying to help, but we don't have a lead person. So maybe we can informally do that, so select leads for each of these ad hocs.
And just to add on to that, and there's certainly, from a staff's perspective, I try to reach out and try to get people together, but certainly time passes by, and the intent of these is it allows you all to work independently, and certainly welcome you to include myself or other staff in those conversations, but we don't ever want to hold you back in your conversations either. So one thing we'll do is we'll send out the updated list, we'll send out the updated contact sheet, and I know I will strive to get these groups together. I think having the initial conversation, some of them, it can be the starting point, and then allow you all to take your creativity and run from there. So it's a shared, I would say, absolutely shared responsibility.
I was asking specifically because I'm noticing that some of these have timelines, the student artists, the treasure artists, when submissions are due and all that kind of thing. I'd be happy to help with that if I had a timeline,
Yeah. And that's a great point. And that one I know is very specific to certain points in the year. And so those absolutely, that's on, makes it for staff. We'll have to make sure we give you that timeline. And as we head into the end of this calendar year, we'll be setting our calendar for next year and when those exactly will fall.
So I think we're okay for motions. Do we need any further motions for changes?
Make sure we got everything in the shuffle around.
We do need a motion for the changes that we did for the CFAC goals and committees. If it helps, I can do a summary, and then whoever wants to make a motion can just state that, if that helps. So I have Commissioner Momsen being added and replacing Vice Chair Knudsen to the develop process to support city's communication strategies and highlight arts and cultural initiatives, ad hoc. We are adding Chair Schlelein to identify opportunities to support and strengthen cultural and creative business enterprises. And then we are also combining the public art proposal review and the explore opportunities and refine strategy to implement temporary and or permanent public art projects, ad hocs together. We'll wordsmith a better title for that. And those are the changes that I have. Let me know if I missed any.
I think that sounds great.
And
Okay.
just to confirm on that one, we're combining that will be Commissioners Love, Reiners, and Knudsen on the art proposal and strategy, correct? Okay.
So just need a motion and a second.
Okay, so anyone want to initiate that, please?
I make a motion to approve those updates.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Reiners,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Love,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knudsen,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
thank you very much. And next, we have commissioners' reports. And if any of you have things you want to announce that are coming, events or things you've been involved in, or community interest items, or anything from ad hocs that have happened, feel free to start.
I just would like to say, I got a heads up from Connie, and I went to the Dead Letter and Sonda Bernstein talk last night, and I was blown away that we have the first restaurant gallery, digital gallery combination that exists ever in Sonoma, and the quality of the work, not only Sondra's AI photography, but the quality of her collection that is shown is phenomenal. And I just was so proud that here we are in Sonoma and we're seeing something like this in addition to, what's happening in the arts, and it was incredible. I encourage you all to go check it out.
And she's offering, she's going to be doing a lot of different talks and some workshops that I think will be really interesting as well. She mentioned her first one in September, early September.
I think it's the 15th.
Yes, and she's joined the Art Walk, so you'll be able to pop in the first Thursday to see the work. It is quite different than the Girl in the Fig work, and is a deep dive into it. So we learned a lot last night.
Not only is it different, but it's going to be changing, so that this will be an exhibition that's up, the black and white, for a period of time, and then there'll be another exhibition and another exhibition. So it is a real draw.
Other things coming up or reports?
I don't know if this fits, but I'm very excited to be bringing Follies to the Sonoma Arts Live stage. One of the reasons that I picked this project is because it features almost an entire cast, with the exception of 4 people that are over 55. And I'm really proud of that. There's so much talent in this valley that, you just age out. So I hope that Sonoma embraces it. It's Sondheim, and people either love him or don't know what the heck he's talking about. So.
Thank
But
you.
I encourage it.
Great. Others?
Yeah, I've been managing a project that's set to open in September in Howarth Park. It's 50 monarch butterflies in celebration of Christo and Jean-Claude's 50 years of the running fence. And they're all cut from wood, 9 feet by 12 feet. It's partnered with Latino service providers and the Museum of Sonoma County. So that will be opening in September for about 2 months, and that will be on the Howarth Park Trail. So it'll be 50 large butterflies. So you've got to check it out.
That's in Santa Rosa. So worth noting, because we're sort of partnering now. Having Meredith there, we get to find out all this great public art things that are happening. If you haven't heard, the Sonoma Ed Foundation has created an instrument library, and Landon Lemoyne is the Visual and Performing Arts Coordinator for the school district and the Executive Director of Vivo Orchestra. He's managing the instrument lending library. It's going to be, I believe, at the Old Adele campus. And they're purchasing a lot of instruments. The Ed Foundation has really jumped in and has helped. And we have 2 elementary music teachers, thanks to Proposition 28, that are now going to be fully supported with instruments, as well as K through 12 having instruments, quality instruments for our students. So we are jump-starting and correcting course on our music program. So we're getting there, and now we just need to work on our visual art program, which will happen someday soon. So that's pretty exciting. Any school reports or anything, Morgan?
You stole it. I will say I live right by the plaza, and the piano is a major hit. Every time I'm there, people are jamming away on that, so it's really fun to see. All ages, all different skill levels. It's a great project.
I had my neighbor say something about, are you part of the responsible, team that's put the piano out there? And this is incredible. And I've taken film footage of a couple of different times when I've walked by, and I think it's amazing.
Has anybody seen the exhibit in Golden Gate Park? What is it called? Happy Pianos or something? It's filled with grand pianos, and they have everybody just wandering around playing them, and then some scheduled things. But yeah,
I've done several talks to Rotaries and salons and a number of different organizations, and people are coming forward with ideas, and that's maybe one of the reasons we're going to be seeing more proposals, because it's just a matter, and I kind of took that communication ad hoc seriously this year, and just decided to write articles for Sonoma Sun. I've got several submitted, but timing is critical for them. And, but the talks are generating a lot of ideas and proposals and people coming to us excitedly talking about public art funding, how this all works. I'll be scheduling a talk with a public forum, and I'd love for all of you to join at the Sonoma Valley Museum of Art. I'm waiting for a time. They're interested because of this ordinance and a little bit of the conversation around it and discussions that have been coming. They want us to inform the public about the public art ordinance and also the public art policy and what's happening. So there are people asking us to talk. And I think communication is key. We need to get the word out because once we do, people are excited and more things happen. We're in a momentum period. So, and September 16th, it would be nice if you could all join for the city council meeting and also invite anyone that might be interested in speaking or supporting or talking or thinking. So, and with that, I think we're on to a staff report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you all for the updates. A lot of exciting opportunities happening in and around our community. So a few updates on our front. Last night, many of you may have heard the news, but last night at City Council announced that Christina Leibovich, who's been our interim city manager, will be in the full-time role moving forward. So they still have to approve the contract at the next meeting, but made that announcement last night. So we're excited to have Christine on board in full-time capacity. And as our meetings unfold, certainly maybe before then, provide an opportunity for you all to meet her if you haven't done so. If not, we'll extend an invitation to Christine to join us at an upcoming meeting so she can introduce herself. You mentioned the piano installation, Square Keys, hearing the same thing, lots of positive community feedback on that front. Staying in regular communication with Tanner Wall with the Sebastiani Theater Foundation, just to make sure that we ran into some irrigation sprinkler snafus out of the gate, but make sure the piano's not getting overwatered. And you may have seen there's been the addition of some seating out there, so when people are playing, they can play the piano comfortably. But we're continuing to watch it, monitor, see what the reaction and the feedback is. Again, the idea is that this is can be a nimble, flexible installation, so we can continue to modify it over time that best fits the community's needs. Also, at last meeting, you approved Peter Hassan's installation of Cycles 3. We are working through the installation details. We'll get an installation date on your calendars as soon as possible, but we're targeting somewhere in mid-September to get that in place. We want to make sure that it is installed before Peter moves out of town, out of the area. So we are working on getting an install and a recognition of that going in, so we'll keep you all updated, and hopefully that will be happening very soon. As we look around this room, we're working with the community center on the next art installation. We still actually need to do the reception. They opted to do a post what are we calling this thing? Post. I'm saying installation over and over in my head, but an end of run reception here, and before they get ready to put the new installation in place. That is set to happen most likely the first weekend in September, but as soon as I confirm that with Vanessa and her team, I'll get that date to you all. Do want to share on the rec side, we are just announced a Movies in the Park series, so we'll be showing a set 3 different movie nights starting next Friday, so August 28th. We'll kick things off with The Incredibles. We're going to start that at 7 o'clock. We're able to start a little bit earlier, utilizing an LED screen, so we don't have to wait till complete dark, and hopefully that'll help some of our families that have younger children be able to attend. But we'll have one August 28th, September 18th, we'll be showing Back to the Future. October 16th will be a double feature of Coco and Ghostbusters Afterlife. So more info on that front, but working in partnership with the Sebastiani Theater Foundation. Again, they're going to provide free popcorn and have concessions, and just hope the community can come out and enjoy some movies in the park. And then finally, just a plug for some commission vacancies. As you all know, Commissioner Small stepped down. Unfortunately, we heard that our youth commissioner, Emma, is going to have to step down as well. She has a lot going on in her student and personal life, and wishing her the best in her next ventures, and hopefully will join us again some point in the future. But on that front, we are looking to fill a a student vacancy as well as still fill our permanent vacancy. So if you all or anyone at home that's listening know anyone who may be a good fit for the commission, please fill out an application. You can do so on our website or reaching out to our city clerk's office. And I think that covers everything on my end. Anything?
Just want to add on to Director Jahns is while we do have 2 vacancies on our commission, we actually have a vacancy on all of our commissions at this time. So we are looking for applications. Anyone interested, please go online and fill out an application or come to City Hall or reach out to me if you have any questions.
Thank you for that report. And thanks, commissioners. You are really the dream team. It's really fun working with you. So with that, we're adjourned at 7:40.